The envelope was already open when I picked it up. My name was typed wrong. Just slightly. Like someone didn't bother to double-check. Inside there were eviction papers. Official. Signed. Stamp. I didn't react right away. I just stood there in the kitchen reading the same line again and again. You have 48 hours to vacate the property. That's when I heard my father's voice behind me. Go ahead. Read it carefully. I turned slowly. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring past me like I wasn't even there. My sister was sitting at the table. Calm. Too calm. Something felt off. I shouldn't have noticed it, but there was a small smile on her face. Not happy. Not relieved. Just settled. Like something had already been decided. This house, my father said flat and simple, is hers now. I didn't argue. That's the part people don't understand when I tell this story. I didn't ask questions. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded. Because something in that moment told me this wasn't sudden. This had been planned. Carefully. Quietly. And I had missed it. I folded the papers. Neatly. Like they mattered. Then I walked past them down the hallway into my room. I started packing. Clothes first. Then documents. Then the small things people usually forget. I kept it to myself. No tears. No calls. No scene. Just quiet. Because deep down, I had a feeling. They thought they had won something. But they didn't understand what they had just taken. And more importantly, what they had just given away. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset. Not exactly. It was the silence that kept me awake. The kind of silence that feels planned. By morning I had most of my things packed into my car. 2 suitcases. A small box. That was it. I walked through the house one last time before leaving. Same walls. Same furniture. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. Maybe it hadn't for a while. That's when things started making sense. Small moments I had ignored. My father asking strange questions about documents a few months back. My sister suddenly showing interest in the house. Asking about repairs. About bills. At the time I thought she was just being curious. I shouldn't have brushed it off. I paused by the kitchen counter. There was a folder sitting there. Not mine. I didn't open it. Something told me I didn't need to. I'll take care of the rest, my sister said from behind me. Her voice was light. Casual. Like she had just taken over a chore, not a home. I nodded. Keys are on the hook, I said. That was the only thing I said to her. My father didn't come out to see me leave. That stayed with me. Not anger. Not sadness. Just a quiet note I stored away. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Didn't slam it. Didn't hesitate. I drove off without looking back. Because by then I already knew something they didn't. They thought this was about a house. But the truth was, that house came with things they hadn't even noticed yet. I stayed at a small extended stay place across town. Nothing fancy. Just clean and quiet. That gave me time to think. And the more I thought, the more certain I became. This hadn't started recently. It went back months. Maybe longer. I opened my laptop and pulled up old emails, bank alerts, anything tied to the house. That's when I saw it. A notification I had ignored weeks ago. A request for access. Not unusual on its own. Families share things sometimes. But the timing didn't sit right. Something felt off. I shouldn't have noticed it back then, but I did now. I checked the property records next. Public information. Easy to access. At first glance, everything looked normal. My name was still there. But there was something else. A second entry. Recent. I leaned closer to the screen. My sister's name. Added quietly. No discussion. No mention. That's when everything shifted. They hadn't just planned to move her in. They had already started moving me out, on paper. I sat back and let that settle. Still no anger. Just clarity. I kept digging. Utility transfers. Insurance changes. Small adjustments that only make sense when you're taking over something permanently. And they had done it piece by piece. Carefully. Quietly. Hoping I wouldn't notice until it was too late. I closed the laptop. For a moment I just sat there. Because now I understood. This wasn't just about giving her a place to live. This was about removing me completely. But here's what they didn't realize. In their rush to take control, they had overlooked something important. Something tied to that house that didn't transfer as easily as they thought. It hit me the next morning. Not suddenly. Just clear. I drove back, but I didn't go inside. I parked across the street and watched. My sister's car was in the driveway. The front door opened, then shut again. Fast. A few minutes later, she stepped outside. On the phone. Pacing. That was new. She wasn't calm anymore. I kept my distance. Something felt off. I shouldn't have smiled, but I did. Because I knew exactly what she had just discovered. The house wasn't fully paid off. Not even close. There was a loan attached to it. And not a small one. My father knew that. So did I. But my sister didn't. Because when they added her name to the property, they also tied her to everything connected to it. Taxes, liabilities, and most importantly, the debt. I had taken that loan years ago. Quietly. Not for luxury. Not for anything careless. For something necessary at the time. And I had been the only one managing it. Every payment. Every notice. All in my name. Until they changed things. Until they decided to make her an owner. I watched her stop pacing. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Then she looked up at the house. Not proud anymore. Just unsure. That's when I understood something else. They hadn't just taken something from me. They had stepped into something they didn't understand. And now, it was starting to unfold. But that was only the beginning. Because the loan wasn't the worst part. Not even close. I didn't go back again after that. There was no need. By then, everything had started moving on its own. I spent the next few days making quiet calls. Nothing dramatic. Just careful. A meeting with a lawyer. A review of documents. Clarifying what had already been done, and what hadn't. That's when the picture became complete. My name wasn't fully removed. Not legally. They had added my sister. But they hadn't closed the loop. Which meant one thing. Responsibility was now shared, but control wasn't as simple as they thought. I didn't rush. I didn't confront anyone. I just followed the process. Step by step. I updated my mailing address. Redirected certain notices. Let things flow exactly where they were supposed to go. Because now, every letter that arrived at that house carried weight. And I knew they were opening them. Trying to understand. Trying to fix something they hadn't planned for. I kept it to myself. No warnings. No explanations. That's when my father finally called. His voice was different this time. Less certain. You didn't tell her, he said. I paused. Told her what? I asked. There was a silence. A long one. Then he cleared his throat. She's confused. I didn't respond right away. Because confusion was expected. That's what happens when you walk into something halfway. And assume you understand all of it. I'm sure she'll figure it out, I said. Come. Even. Then I hung up. Because at that point, it wasn't about what they had done to me anymore. It was about what they were about to realize. And they still hadn't reached the hardest part yet. By the end of the week, the letters started stacking up. I didn't need to see them to know what they said. Final notices. Payment reminders. Legal language most people don't read twice. But I had. Every word. That's why I knew exactly how to move next. I met my lawyer again. We went through everything line by line. Ownership. Liability. Transfer details. There was one section that mattered more than the rest. The clause tied to default. If payments stopped, things escalated fast. Not slowly. Not quietly. Fast. And now those notices were going to them. Not me. Because legally they had stepped into that role. My sister had. I didn't interfere. I didn't try to fix it. I let the system do what it was designed to do. That's when my sister called. First time since I left. Her voice wasn't calm anymore. What is this? She asked. No greeting. No build-up. Just pressure. I leaned back in my chair. What are you talking about? I said. The letters. The bank. They're saying? She stopped herself. That told me everything. I shouldn't have let the silence stretch, but I did. Because sometimes people reveal more when they're trying to fill it. You should read everything carefully, I said. My tone stayed steady. You're on the property now. Another pause. Longer this time. Then a quieter question. Why didn't you tell me? I almost answered. Almost. But I didn't. Because that wasn't my responsibility anymore. You wanted the house, I said. And that was it. I ended the call. Because the truth was, this wasn't something I could explain to her. It was something she had to experience. And the next step was already on its way. It didn't take long after that. The second notice came faster than the first. Then the third. Deadlines got shorter. Language got sharper. That's how those things work. I stayed out of it. Completely. No calls. No messages. Just watched from a distance. A week later I got a copy of the filing. Foreclosure proceedings had started. Not finalized. But public. That meant one thing. Pressure. Real pressure. That's when everything changed. My father showed up at my door. Didn't call first. Didn't text. Just stood there. He looked older. Tired. Not the same man who handed me those papers. She can't handle this, he said. No greeting. No apology. Just that. I let him talk. She didn't know. I thought. He stopped. Because even he knew how that sounded. I kept my voice calm. You made her an owner, I said. You said the house was hers. He nodded. Slowly. Like the weight of that sentence had just settled. She's panicking, he added. I didn't respond. Because panic comes when reality finally catches up. What do you want? He asked. That was the moment. The one they thought would come earlier. Where I would demand something. Argue. Push back. But I didn't. I just looked at him. Carefully. Because now, for the first time, they weren't in control anymore. And what happened next wasn't going to be decided in that moment. It was going to be decided where it mattered most. In writing. I didn't answer him right away. I let the silence sit between us. Because this wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about terms. I'll take the house back, I said finally. His eyes lifted. Fast. Hope showed up too quickly. But not the way you think. I stepped aside and let him come in. We sat down at the small table. No tension. No raised voices. Just clear words. I assumed full control again, I continued. Loan payments, everything. He nodded before I finished. But, I added, your name's come off completely. That slowed him down. And one more thing. Now he was listening carefully. No more decisions about my property. Ever. He didn't argue. Didn't negotiate. Because he knew there wasn't room for it anymore. A few days later, everything was signed. Legally clean. Ownership corrected. Liability back where it belonged. I drove back to the house the next morning. Same driveway. Same door. But this time it felt quiet again. My sister's car was gone. No scene. No goodbye. Just absence. Inside, everything was exactly where I had left it. Almost untouched. I walked through each room slowly. Not emotional. Just aware. Because now it was clear. They hadn't wanted the house. They wanted control. And they thought taking something from me would give them that. But control doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from understanding what you're holding. I set my keys down on the counter. Same place as before. Only difference was, this time no one else was reaching for them. And that's how it stayed.